This video is a tutorial about depotting MAC blushes from the compact and placing them into the 6-pan MAC palette. The blushes I'm using for this tutorial are the blushes from the new Trade Chic collection. These I've already popped out of the compact using a knife. Here's the knife I use. I use a really skinny one to go around and pop that plastic piece out of the compact. You're left with this, and it basically, they sit down in there like that, and just loosening very gently around the edge, this part will pop out, and then you can heat them up and depot them. I don't use the candle method. I don't use the flat iron method. I cheat. I like to get it done quicker, easier. So I use a coffee pot. I take the actual coffee pot out, and this is the heating surface. And then I place the pan on there. With the MAC eyeshadows, this goes much quicker because you can get about 3 of the little eyeshadow pans on there and do 3 at a time instead of just 1. This heats up the whole surface of the pan rather than just part of it when you do the flat iron method, and you're less likely to burn yourself. I don't use anything to clean the glue off the back because I like having a little bit of the glue left on the back of the metal pan so that it helps stick to the MAC palette in here. For me, it's just easier that way, and that's the method that I prefer. You're going to use the knife again after the blush heats up, and you can see when it heats up because it starts to pull away from the sides a little bit and the plastic starts to get really hot. You can see the bottom of the pan that it's starting to melt on the sides, and there's a little dimple right there. You want to wait until the dimple is like really, really well formed, or at least that's what I do, to make sure that the pan is going to pop out of the plastic casing fairly easily. It only takes a few seconds, and you can test. And all you have to do is just barely push up from that little dimple in the bottom with your knife. Then I take the knife and scoot it underneath. The pan is very hot. I take the knife and scoop it out. There's the pan that's left. Because you don't want to puncture through the dimple with the tip of the knife too hard, or you'll crush your blush. Then I take the blush while it's still on the knife, and I slide it off, glue and all. This is my method. It may not work for you, but I don't plan on ever reusing this palette or changing the blushes out. And there is Modern Mandarin. Depotted and in the pan, in the palette. I try to back to MAC these whenever possible. I just pop the little thing back in the compact, and it's ready to go back to MAC to recycle. Yay for the planet. And after you do 6, which there just happens to be 6 blushes in this collection, you get a free lipstick or an eyeshadow if you go to a pro store, or a lip gloss if you go to a pro store. And this one's not quite ready yet. This is Immortal Flower. And these blushes from this collection are just wonderful. I love them all. Modern Mandarin and Love Cloud are my favorites from the collection. And I think that Immortal Flower is ready to be depotted. No, it needs to heat up just a little bit more. If you get resistance when you're trying to push through with the tip of your knife, that means that the glue has not heated up enough to be released yet. And you might want to heat it up just a little bit more to keep from damaging your blush or your eyeshadow, whichever you're depotting. And then it only takes just a few minutes longer to get that completed. check it again. I like to make sure, I dropped it. I like to make sure that mine are nice and heated up. You have to be more careful with the cream blushes because they tend to melt inside the metal pan. And it can damage them sometimes. So this is the method that I use to depot my MAC products. It's fairly simple. This one's already cold. And you can shake it. That baby's not going anywhere. Okay, this one should be completely ready to go now. Yes, it is. Freeing from the pan quite easily. There's a little edge popped up, and then I take the knife, raise it up all the way, pull it completely out of there, and then slide it into the palette. And that one's ready to go too. The next one I'm going to do is Love Cloud. And then just reinsert this pan as well. I think it's easier to reinsert these while the plastic is still warm and kind of malleable than to wait till it gets completely cold, because sometimes it gets harder to snap these back in. And then in the end, we'll have all 6 of the new MAC blushes in their little palette together. I can't wait to get these in there too. To me, the most tedious part is removing this from the plastic, because I'm so scared that I'm going to mess one up doing that. Because the first few times I've depotted, I messed up my first pink Cult doing that. And had to get a backup of it when it was released last year with Genius. And when it looks like this and the back is still completely solid, you know that it's not ready to go, that it needs a lot more heat. And I think that using the coffee pot, it heats the whole pan of the blush more evenly with the flat iron. And to me, like trying to balance the little pan on a flat iron, it was just too hard because the flat iron is so narrow and the blushes are wider than any flat irons I've seen since probably 2000, 2002, something like that. They've gotten so narrow. They used to be like really wide like that, but I haven't seen those in forever. I know a couple of people have said they found them like for $5 at maybe a dollar store or something, but me personally, I haven't been able to find those in forever. A hot plate would work as well. That's a little bit bigger than the base of the coffee pot. I just don't happen to have one of those. And that one is still not ready to go. Some of these it takes longer to heat them up because I don't know if the plastic is like a different density or some of it's thicker. But some of them take a whole lot longer. Modern Mandarin, the plastic on it heated up really quickly. And it was out and good to go. This one's taking quite a bit longer. And the way I'm going to do this palette is I'm going to try to do the darker colors on top and the lighter colors on the bottom. So it's going to be like the Peony Petal will be here. Full of Joy and Pink Tea. And Love Cloud is going to go right here in this slot. I'm going to make like I make a little paper so I have the names up here. I don't write on the palettes. I don't have anything like that. And if you do decide to try to remove these, They still pop out fairly easily from the palette. You just kind of have to pry them a little bit. Because the glue is not as strong after it sits in here as it was before, in my opinion. Because I have removed a couple of eyeshadows from a palette that I did like this with putting the hot glue down into the bottom of the palette. And this one is almost ready to go. Okay, it has a really good dimple on the back of it now. You can see the dimple. And the pan will just like slide up so easily. Just like that. And you can see how little glue there is. There's like a little tiny drop. And that's all that's holding it in the plastic. And no matter which method you use, be very, very careful, because the metal pans that sit in this, that the blushes or the eyeshadows are actually in, they get very, very hot. And you don't want to burn yourself. If you are a kid, don't try this without your parents. And then you pop that one in and you're ready to go. So this is the top part, and I will spare you the rest. I hope you guys got the hang of it in the method that I used. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope it helped you guys out.